Cats and TV.
Hey everybody, Catsynth TV, and today we are looking at the new CP-70 V from our friends at Arturia, part of the V Collection X. It is a recreation of the legendary electro-acoustic piano from Yamaha. We'll go over all of its features in detail and look at a few of the factory presets. But first, a bit of history. Yamaha first released the CP-70 in 1976. The instrument is best characterized as an electroacoustic piano, as it uses the key and hammer action of an acoustic piano with specifically manufactured strings that are shorter and lighter, along with piezoelectric pickups, similar to those used in acoustic guitars. The use of real strings gave the CP-70 a sound and feel that was closer to an acoustic piano, as compared to the other popular electric pianos of the time, such as the Fender Rhodes. The small strings and lack of a soundboard meant that it was quite compact and portable, and it was used by many touring musicians in the late 1970s and early 1980s, including the great George Duke, Led Zeppelin's John Paul Jones, and Genesis's Tony Banks. Yamaha continued to make improved models of the instrument, culminating with the MIDI-compatible CP-70M in 1985. The Arturia CP-70 V recreates the look and feel of the original, along with many of its original features. In addition to the keyboard and housing, we see the knobs for preamp volume, EQ, and tremolo. We can even peek at the internal strings if we tap advanced, but we'll come back to that later. Arturia mentions that the strings are sampled, while the preamp and other electronics are modeled. That probably won't matter to most users, but I for one find it interesting. Now to be fair, I have never really been into the Yamaha electric pianos in the same way that I've been wildly into Rhodes and Wurlitzer pianos. But I've been spending a few days with this one, and I've quite enjoyed playing with it. Let's give it a listen. Okay, now let's go to the default preset and take a closer look at some of the features of the main panel. We have a volume for the preamp, bass, middle, and treble controls for the EQ, and a tremolo effect with depth and speed. Volume does pretty much what you think it will do. Now you might hear a little bit of sound even with the volume all the way down. That's because this is the preamp volume, and there is still some acoustic sound from the strings. A nice little detail that they modeled here. Now let's look at the EQ. Crank up the bass a bit for a warmer sound. Now much of the instrument's sound comes through the middle band, so if we turn that all the way down, we don't hear very much at all, even with the bass and treble all the way up. So you probably want to keep the middle fairly high. Now let's turn our attention to the tremolo. Turn it on. Increase the depth a bit. And increase the speed. That's an interesting effect there. Now before we continue, I'd like to ask you to please consider supporting this channel so that we may bring you more synth demos like this one regularly. Links to our merch store, Patreon, and Ko-Fi are in the description below. Okay, reset to default. And now let's open up the Advanced panel. As mentioned earlier, this exposes a view of the strings inside the instrument. This is just decorative, but it does lead us to one of the more interesting parameters on this page, setting a microphone level for the acoustic strings. We can change the mic level from the default 55% to 100%. Right now we are hearing the acoustic and electronic together. Now we can turn down the electronics entirely. Cool, let's turn the preamp back up. We have some other tools for changing the sound. The timbre control shifts between a more metallic sound in the positive direction and a more mellow sound in the negative. Let's set it slightly positive. We also have control over the noises found in the original instrument. We can turn them all down for a cleaner sound. Turn up natural resonances. A sort of subtle effect. Key release models the sound of the instrument's keys being released. Yeah, you can hear a bit of the thudding there. We can also include the modeled sound of the sustain pedal if we choose. I like to leave a little bit of that on. Now, a lot of real estate on this panel is devoted to the velocity curve, where you can fine-tune the velocity response and overall feel of the instrument. By default, velocity is mapped linearly, but we can move and add line segments to increase or decrease the intensity at various velocities. You can shift response upward or downward. Now we really hear mostly high velocity and not much at low velocity. There are velocity presets such as exponential, which also de-emphasizes lower velocities, or logarithmic, which makes the instrument more sensitive. This is the curve I prefer to use with my own style of playing. Detune adds various amounts of detuning to the strings, which can make the instrument sound aged or worn. Crank it all the way up. That gets a little strange, so let's pull it back to a more subtle level. Yeah, it definitely sounds a bit worn. I like to keep this low, but not zero. There is also an envelope control, which allows us to control attack and release independent of the instrument's electro-acoustic properties. Right now, we have a full-on attack. We can slow down the attack rate, Very unpiano-like. We can set it somewhere in the middle. Yeah, that's quite nice. Now it would be fun to dynamically control some of the advanced parameters like timbre, microphone, and preamp volume. Unfortunately, the CP-70V does not have a modulation matrix like some of the other instruments in the V collection, but it does have macro controls. In particular, timbre can be used to modulate the timbre effect in real time. We can use MIDI automation on the timbre macro to get real-time control of it. Right now I have it mapped to MIDI control change 19 on my keyboard. Now suppose I want to dynamically shift between the preamp sound and the acoustic sound from the microphones. I can reprogram one of the other macros to do that. I'm going to call it mode because I can't think of a more clever name at the moment. I can set it to learn the preamp volume control and the microphone control. Set the control curves in opposite directions. We can now assign the macro to MIDI control change 4, corresponding to the standard foot controller. Let's tweak the curves and ranges a bit. Okay, now let's bring up the effects panel. This allows us to apply up to 4 pedal effects, such as this chorus that I can turn on or off, an amp model like a Fender Twin Amp, and a room reverb model. Let's listen to the piano through the Twin Amp. Turn down treble on the instrument and turn up bass a bit. Now the Twin Amp has its own tremolo effect that we can set. We can combine it with the instrument tremolo and set them at different rates for a more complex modulation effect. Nice. Now let's turn on the chorus effect. Yeah, I like that. With a little amp and chorus, the sound of the instrument is starting to get a little richer and a little dirtier. Let's add in a phaser. Increase the feedback. Increase the number of poles. We do have some available presets for each effect, like the phaser. Now another fun effect is the cry-wah. Pretty much the classic crybaby wah-wah effect. Add some more tremolo depth. Sweet! Turn wah-wah off and the chorus back on. Now we do have some additional amp models, in particular different rotary speaker models. Let's try an open 122 representing a Leslie 122 speaker system. We can change parameters on the horn and drum elements. Let's try a 147 model. Add the chorus back in. Let's try adding a tape delay effect. Turn that one off. Now one additional feature we have here is the room reverb modeling. Right now we are in a rather mild small piano room. Make it wetter. Let's try a different model, like a jazz club. And now a more unusual model, a factory hall. probably good to turn the bass down a bit. Now we do have some other types of reverb in addition to the room responses, like Arturia's Plate 140 reverb. Cool, so now you've heard some of the traditional and not so traditional things that you can do with the CP-70V. Let's listen to a few of the factory presets that take advantage of its range. We hope that you've enjoyed this look at Arturia's new CP-70V. To find out more, please visit arturia.com and check out the description below this video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to CatSynth TV.